Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Hello everyone, welcome back to Omegon 2 Electric Boogaloo. Today we are going to be having a political discussion, so as this is not YouTube drama or something quirky, I fully expect it to tank. Do smash the like though, as I requested at the start. Also, as we're not doing re-uploads on this channel anymore, the added boost would really help us. Oh no, but Omegon's begging it. Of course I am, I'm a content creator, shut the fuck up. Anyway, politics can be quite a poisonous subject for a lot of people. This can be, let's say, attributed to a very binary interpretation of what politics is. I've always preferred, instead of favouring a party, to deal and address the issue. And if a government can persuade me that their path forward is the correct one, then I'll consider voting for that issue, not the party. There are many politicians, though, who believe themselves untouchable. This can be in any country, really. There's always going to be somebody who believes they can play some cards, and these cards in turn enable them to be free from consequence. They have what can be described as free speech, free of consequence, absolute freedom. Because of that, it is very tricky from time to time to deal with those people, especially when they say something that is wrong. But for the sake of the subject we are going to cover today, the word racist is the one we're going to latch onto. Some believe they have a pass, because they themselves are of a minority ethnic group, and that in turn means they can say almost anything they want, and no one can hold them accountable, because if they do, they are promoting the very thing that they believe they're exempt from. On the receiving end of this racism is Kwasi Kwarteng, the current Chancellor of the Exchequer of a Conservative Party that is undoubtedly going down the drain. So how long he'll serve as Chancellor for is at most 2 years. The person who instigated this rather interesting perspective onto Kwasi is a Labour MP called Rupa Huck. Rupa Huck is the older sister to a Blue Peter former presenter Connie Huck, someone who is in this country beloved. Rupa Huck, not so much. No, she's quite far left leaning. There's nothing wrong with being far left leaning, by the way. It's just when you say some absolutely batshit insane crap, chances are you're going to shine a rather negative light on your party. If you're involved in politics, one thing you really have to care about is optics. You can always say, I'm here to serve my constituents, or when you're in government, the country. But in reality, that's never the case. We all know this to be true. Generations have taught us that those that typically serve in politics and do it for the people are few and far between, in favour of those that do something only when it benefits them. If you want a great example, in the US the midterms are coming up. Look at what the US government is doing before the midterms and what they did after Biden was inaugurated. They are a lot busier nearer election time. That kind of tactic is key in my country as well. So when somebody speaks out and shines a negative light on your own party, a party that is seen as the only viable option, even though you have Keir Starmer as your leader, you're not doing them any favours. For her actions, which we'll get to in a moment, the Ealing Central and Acton MP has been suspended by the Labour Party. In a recording that was published by the Guido Fawkes website, Rupa Huck is heard speaking about Britain's first black chancellor after his tax-cutting mini-budget last week. That tax-cutting mini-budget isn't what it seems. I promise you this. Blue-collar workers, those that live, let's say, hand-to-mouth, do not benefit from this in the slightest. In fact, those that benefit the most are those that make the most. So tax-cutting mini-budget was solely, let's help our investors, they're really gonna love us. Where she said the following: superficially, he is a black man, adding that people listening to Kwasi Kwarteng wouldn't know he is black, as if his name wasn't enough of a giveaway. The man's parents emigrated from Ghana in the 1960s. This is another cute way of saying that he is, to others, the Uncle Tom of the Conservative Party, a term used to say that he is black, but he's the wrong kind of black because he doesn't agree with our type of politics. I've heard this nonsense used a lot, more recently in politics because it's an excuse to say, if you don't vote for us, you're the wrong kind of person of this skin color that we want. Something Biden said in the lead up to his victory. Comments like that are akin to calling Sajid Javid, who was the chancellor for a while, a coconut, because he is brown-skinned and bald, which is unacceptable because a coconut has hair. Many politicians on either side of the aisle talk about racism in society and in politics, but it's when a Conservative MP who is themselves an ethnic minority stands up and talks about it, their views are denigrated by the opposition who claim to be progressive because they're the wrong kind. You had that when Priti Patel was Home Secretary. I'm surprised Suella Braverman has yet to get any of this shtick too. Give it time, and you show your own true colours, as opposed to that of wanting unity, equality, equity, and all the other buzzwords you like to champion Labour Party, or those who speak ill and out of turn without Labour's explicit permission. It appears Keir Starmer micromanages a little bit. For the longest time, I had thought the reason Labour liked to rail on those particular MPs, Sajid Javid, Priti Patel, Kwasi Kwarteng, and others, was because they're all married to a white person, and therefore they're not doing their bit for their race. It's not too far-fetched when you really think about it. As I must be clearly wrong, it's clearly very coincidental that all of them are married to white people. Now, this is not where it ends for the Chancellor of the Exchequer. You see, he has been the victim of racism twice within the space of a week. The second time comes courtesy of the Daily Mirror, who put out an article where they quoted and then said Kwasi Kwarteng said he had to do something different with mini budget. Above that title is a picture. I have no idea who that is, but I can promise you this, it isn't the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Something which the Chancellor of the Exchequer actually noticed and tweeted out. That isn't me at Daily Mirror. With Calvin Robinson underneath replying, a shameful mistake, I'm sure they'll be publicly apologising imminently ... Now, the article itself was updated. Courtesy of George Evans, we found out that they had actually changed it to one that's actually the Chancellor, but at the time they had not issued a public apology. Eventually, the Mirror on their Twitter had tweeted out this morning a picture in a story about Kwasi Kwarteng was wrongly captioned on the Mirror website. This was a terrible error, and we apologise to Mr. Kwarteng and all our readers. The Mirror has a long history of working against racism, and we will redouble our efforts on this. Dear Daily Mirror, saying what you have done to stand against racism means literal shit. Actions speak louder than words. Unfortunately for you, because of that very idea, it will take time for anyone to think of you as anything but a racist outlet. When speaking to the Mail on Sunday, Kwasi Kwarteng defended his mini-budget. He also branded Labour as backward when it came to identity politics, and this is where he gave his first response to Rupa Huck. In that interview, he pointed out that his Ghanaian parents had been hurt by the views of Rupa Huck, and although she has apologised for her comments, Kwasi Kwarteng believes they represent the mindset of the Labour Party as a whole, being quoted as saying, "There is always that element on the left where it's okay being black if you are the right sort of black person, that you subscribe to their agenda and like a bit of Britain bashing and the rest of it. What drives the left crazy is seeing successful ethnic minority politicians in the Conservative Party. If you look at the last 10 years, the Conservative Party is much more ethnically diverse than the Labour Party, and they lecture us on diversity. They lecture us on gender diversity when they've never even had a female leader. We've had 3 female prime ministers. 2 so far have been stabbed in the back by their own party. Are we shooting for 3 now as well?" Annoyingly, when you look at the points concerning identity, he is actually correct. And that is why it's so hard for others that should ordinarily vote Labour to want to vote for Labour, because they're focusing on things that do not appeal to the majority of the people or deal with the issues the majority of the people face. They don't offer up solutions either that don't involve borrowing vast amounts of money, which is something the Conservatives are also doing, because apparently it's a race to the bottom. Who can do it fastest, Labour or the Tories? Racism in politics, everyone. Turns out it's everywhere. I know. Imagine my shock.